Hello, Hoosier fans, Hoosier haters, and everyone in between. This is the Crimson Coliseum podcast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be discussing the big matchup this week between the number 13th ranked Indiana Hoosiers against the Michigan State Spartans. And Indiana is an 8-point favorite going into this road game, and the over-under is 51.5. But before we get really into it, I got a couple of things. First of all, I'm wearing the Fear of God IU shirt, which honestly fits me pretty well. So I'm happy about that. I got that for free at the IU basketball game. Don't ask how the game ended, but got a free shirt out of it. Free shirts are always a win. And also, I just got my first coaching opportunity at high school level. I'm the assistant bowling coach at the University Schools of Nashville, and hopefully that can get to something bigger. Hopefully. So there's all that. Greg was planning on being here, but with scheduling issues, he really couldn't. So he's got some notes down. I'm going to discuss them with also his score prediction as well. So let's just get right into it. For Michigan State's history, they were founded in 1855. Their first season was 1918. They have a record of 606, 429, and 30. Bowl record is 14 and 15. Their last 14 and 15, and their last bowl was the 2021 Peach Bowl. They play in Spartan Stadium, where they're going to be playing the game. And the record versus Indiana is 50, 18, and 1. Oh, 50, 18, and 2. And the record is 4 and 4, 2 and 3 in conference play. And their last game was a 17 to 14 loss at Michigan. And this is one of two trophy games. And Indiana's playing for the Old Brass Spittoon. For team stats, offensively, Indiana scores 46.5 points per game, which leads the conference. 87.6 total yards, which is also first. 287 passing and 200.6 rushing yards, which is fourth and third in the conference, respectively. 54% on third downs, which is first, on 87 attempts, which is sixth. Defensively, Indiana allows 14.1 points per game, which is second. Total yards is 269.5, which is third, 183.4 passing, and 86.1 rushing yards, which is seventh and first, respectively. Uh, their third down percentage is 33%, which is tied for fourth, on 130 third down attempts, which is tied for eighth. Heading over, and with Indiana's offense, yeah, I've talked about them for 10 weeks at this point. They've been fantastic. Consistently been great this year. It's what you love to see. Michigan State, meanwhile, offensively, they score 21.6 points per game, which is 14th. 366.7 total yards, which is good for 10th. 233.4 passing and 133.3 rushing. I'm going to make sure that is, but I believe that is right, which is 9th and 13th, respectively. Um, Third down percentage is 40.7, and which is 13th, and 86 third down conversions, which is fifth. Actually, no. Disregard that. I don't know why my Michigan State stats are all wrong, because they were right before. So total yards for Michigan State is 364.9, which is 10th, 10th of the conference. Passing yards is 277.9, which is 10th. Rushing yards is 137, which is 13th. Conversion wise, is 42.6, which is 11th on 101 third downs. So yeah, this just isn't. I don't know why. Oh, I don't think I know why. This got updated late. Okay, so yeah, Big Ten updated this later than when I had it. I didn't check. That's my fault. So on 101 third downs, which is eighth. Defensively, gonna have to just do this all by vibes here. So defensively, they allow 21.2 points, which is 11th. Um, and 315.9 total yards, which is tied for 10th with Iowa on 186.2 passing yards, which is eighth, and 129.6 rushing yards, which is 12th in the conference, I believe. Yeah, 12th. Defensive third down percentage. I'm going to get right to that real fast. Is 44.9, which is 15th in the conference. On 107 third downs, which is eighth. Well, no, not eighth, sixth. Read that wrong. Heading into and with Michigan State, it's been pretty average season for them. They haven't had the easiest schedule, but they've just been pretty decent. Heading into individual stats, Curtis Rourke is on track to play. So we're going to talk about his stats: 131 and 185, 1,941 yards, 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, along with 18 carries, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 fumbles, and lost 37 yards on 6 sacks. Rushing the ball, Justice Ellison, 102 carries, 637 yards, and 9 touchdowns, along with 5 receptions for 42 yards. Receiving wise, Elijah Surratt, 33 receptions, 590 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Tackling, Aiden Fisher, 75 tackles, 32 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 passes defended. D'Angelo Pons, who last week was the Big Ten and National Defensive Player of the Week, 40 tackles, 27 solo, 3 tackles for loss, 5 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown. Like I've been talking about these Hoosiers. I'm not gonna go too much into what they've done. Meanwhile, for Michigan State, Aiden Childs, 125 and 205, 1,657 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, along with 46 rushes, 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 fumbles, and lost 115 yards in 18 sacks, which he loses about 6.5 yards a sack. Rushing the ball, K'Ron Lynch Adams is leading the way for them. 92 carries, 459 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. And Nate Carter, 86 carries, 412 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Running the ball, it hasn't been great for them, but but it seems like they're starting to get better over the course of the season. Receiving wise, Nick Marsh, 28 receptions, 475 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And on defense, Jordan Turner, who's going to miss the first half of the game with a targeting suspension, 48 tackles, 26 solo, 3 sacks, 7.5 tackles for loss, and 1 interception. And then there's Charles Brantley, 27 tackles, 19 solo, 1.5 tackles for loss, 5 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and a touchdown. And just with Michigan State, yeah, it's been not a great season. Um, there's things that they could have done better. There's games they could have won to be in a better spot to make a bowl game, but we'll just see how this game goes for them. Just for some extra notes from me, D'Angelo Pons is the first IU player to win a National Player of the Week award since Micah McFadden in Week 7 of 2020 when they faced Wisconsin at Wisconsin. And he's the second defensive player to earn that distinction. Um, and I think it's going to be a big game for the running backs. Like you've already got Justice Ellison with 600 plus yards, and then you also got Tyson Lawton with over 400 yards, 2 on 88 carries and 8 touchdowns. Like it's going to be a big game for those two, especially with Work's thumb injury. They're going to be running the ball more against a weaker run defense. So, and I think it's going to be a big game on the trenches because Indiana has allowed only 7 sacks. Meanwhile, Michigan State has allowed 20. Um, the D line really is going to need to put pressure on Childs, but we got to need a guy that, like, say, has a QB spy to hold him off because even though he's lost 6.5 yards per sack, I gotta get back to his stats real fast. He's averaging just about the same rushing per like he's gaining just over around 6.5 yards per rush as he's losing per sack. So 6.5 on both ends. And this defense has been doing great at turning the ball over, which is going to be big against someone that has committed a lot of turnovers. Because in the 6 games before the bye week, they've had 9 turnovers, interceptions, and 5 fumbles. In the 2 games after, they've got 7 with 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles. And those were against two guys that are more concerned, like not concerned, but they're better at not turning the ball over than a guy like Childs is. And here's some stats from Greg. The UCLA game, uh, so for the UCLA game, the capacity was around just under 90,000 people, but school was not in session. So there weren't that as many students, and the Hoosier fans traveled well because it was about an eighth to a sixth of the fans there were Hoosier fans. For the Northwestern game, there was about 12,000 seats in that stadium, and about a third to a half of the fans were IU fans. But this time for Michigan State, it's just under 75,000 people can fit in that stadium. And school will be in session. 69,682 people attended the Iowa game, and that was Michigan State's last home game. And we think it's going to be very close to being a sold out game because not only is it Michigan State against an unranked opponent as a ranked opponent, unbeaten team, but it's also going to be a blackout. So it looks like because they're gonna Michigan State's gonna be wearing their black uniforms. Um, and Michigan State's been 3-1. They've been solid at home, 3-1 at home. Their loss against OSU, but their wins are Florida Atlantic, who honestly they barely beat, Prairie View A&M, and Iowa, which Cade McNamara moment, as we have talked about before. And Greg's game, what Greg thinks the game plan should be is do what they did with Nebraska: start Rourke, build a good lead, and then once that leads in, put in Taven at halftime so that Rourke doesn't re-injure the thumb. And we both have faith in Taven because he's played in rough road environments. He's played in the big house. He's played on the road at Maryland. So and with that experience, I think we think he's going to do pretty well in East Lansing. But the defense is going to have a big game as well. Um, I think we're going to see Rourke in a glove. Well, at least maybe not a glove, but something on his thumb to help grip. That's what I think personally. Is going to be a grip on his thumb to really get his thumb around because that's like the big thing with that thumb injury is just getting him used to gripping the ball. It's gonna look weird, but if it works, it works. And Jonathan Smith is gonna probably prep for the run, put a lot of guys in the box, but they haven't been a great run team, and without their leading tackler and leading guy for tackles for loss, I don't know how much is gonna help them that much. So we're just going to go into our predictions. I had Indiana winning 42-24, and Greg has Indiana winning 41-20. So we both have very similar ideas on what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a very fun game. Hopefully we win. It's a 3:30 game, so I'll be able to watch some before I have to go to work. So, and then Sunday, we're going to release the post game. And also on Sunday, I'm going to be talking about um, we're going to talk about IU soccer because their season is about to end. Today's their last game of the season. So, going to talk about that because they just won the Big Ten regular season championship. So, great for them. I'm going to be talking about that season, how that went, because I haven't talked about that much at all this year. And then heading into next week, we're probably going to do a Terry Moore and Six Squires-esque episode. Then going to talk about the CFP rankings. And basketball season starting too, which is going to be great. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, share on all platforms. But ask, how do you think this game's going to go?